Many would think that this Gravure idol has the body of a goddess, but it turns out she's actually the goddess of Gunpla. Not only that, there's a lot more to this Gunpla loving otaku than you might have thought. She threw it all away in the pursuit of happiness, a story of a true otaku. In this episode of Otaku Files, we take a look at Shinonome Umi. Most of us outside of Japan may not be aware of some of the more interesting personalities within the Japanese otaku landscape, so I thought I'd do a little video series and try to shed some light on these individuals. This is Otaku Files. Gravure idols are, as their name suggests, idols, but not typically of the dancing and singing variety that I often cover on my channel. They are essentially pin-up models, capitalizing on their particular assets so that they can appear in predominantly male-orientated magazines. This practice of doing photo shoots in bikinis etc. is also something you'll find other types of idols doing too, but for Gravure idols this would be the main way that they would earn their living. Now, in this modern era where everyone has some kind of social media account and maybe even a YouTube channel, we get plenty of chances to actually get to know more about these Gravure idols beyond their bodies. And in this video we're going to talk about a particular Gravure idol who, if anything, became more well known for her otaku side. Meet Shinonome Umi. Besides being a Gravure idol, she's also an actress, YouTuber, and really into plastic model kits. More specifically, Gunpla. Gunpla, short for Gundam no Pura-moderu, are, as the name would imply, plastic model kits based on the Gundam franchise. They're also really popular, and that includes in other parts of Asia too. Now, besides all that, Umi turns out to be a pretty savvy businesswoman too, and that also connects to why she decided to become a Gravure idol, something I'll talk about more in just a bit. Umi is from the prefecture of Saitama. As a kid, she mostly liked to do things by herself. Unlike a lot of the other idols that I've covered on this channel, Umi was in fact not bullied in school, but she was called weird for being a bit of a loner. She loved reading books, starting with mystery and sci-fi while she was in elementary school before getting into more classic literature in high school. Suffice to say, this hobby helped her a lot with her literature studies. In fact, she actually became the top student of her modern Japanese class. She even dreamed about being a Japanese language teacher. But Umi wasn't just a bookworm, in fact she was very active. In middle school/high school, she was part of the Kyudo club, Kyudo being the Japanese martial art of archery. With her friends, she even made her own club, the Street Performance Club, where they did balloon art. Apparently they even performed at some regional festivals. That's pretty cool. Her interests were also not limited to Japan. Umi actually did a homestay in the UK when she was 15. What part of the UK I'm not sure though, but I'm guessing she enjoyed the experience because she did another homestay, this time in France, a couple of years later when she was 17. Not only that though, during her university years, she apparently joined an NGO and spent about 1 month in the quote-unquote slums of the Philippines. I have questions. During middle school, there was something else that Umi got into, which a lot of us might be familiar with: idols. While watching videos on Nico Nico Doga, she happened to come across a dance video of Okai Chisato, who was a member of the idol group Kyuto. Absolutely loving what she saw, this would end up leading her deep into the rabbit hole that is Haro Projecto, or Haro Pro for short, which Kyuto was a part of. Umi would even go to their meet and greets. Unfortunately, she couldn't get any of her friends at school to also get into Haro Pro, so she decided to make an SNS account for Haro Pro Otaku and managed to make friends online that would go to events with her. Eventually, Umi would get to know other idols outside of Haro Pro too, making her a full-blown idol otaku. Now in middle school, Umi would find out and start getting interested in something else that was also related to the idol world: Gravure. In fact, she would end up looking through those magazines you'll find at konbinis, usually aimed at older gentlemen. Suffice to say, none of her friends at school shared her enthusiasm for looking at scantily clad women. Shocking. This, as you would imagine, relates to how Umi herself eventually became the target of the camera. In her 3rd year of uni, she was invited by her cameraman otaku friend for a shoot. From selecting what clothes to wear to choosing where to shoot, Umi was involved with and enjoyed the whole process. So much so that she would regularly start looking for cameramen to do photo shoots with and then upload those pics online. After doing that for around a year, she would then be scouted by a talent agency. Thinking about it in terms of gaining experience, Umi agreed. Now, in terms of what she wanted to do, Umi wasn't interested in singing and dancing or being an actress, although she would actually do acting later on. Umi, of course, wanted to go the Gravure route, and so started off as a photo session model. However, appreciating Gravure and doing it yourself are completely different things, but she thought she could make it. Why? Because, and this is actually what Umi said, her mother and grandmother were both G-cup sizes, and she was fairly big too, so she thought she would just be fine. Okay then. With that said, Umi wanted this to be a side gig, not her main job. After graduating uni, she worked at a typical company doing sales. And she was good. Really good. In fact, Umi managed to take the top spot in terms of sales performance. While working a normal job on weekdays, she would do shoots on the weekend. So, what exactly changed? Well, Umi came to understand that ultimately it wasn't her that gets to decide how to do things within a company. Regardless of her performance, if there were decisions she didn't agree with, it didn't matter. Things just had to be done a certain way. Umi wanted to change that and be in a position where she could fully take charge of results. Being a Gravure idol, where you are essentially the quote-unquote product, would mean just that. It would all be down to her. So when Umi started getting offers from her agency to do work on weekdays, she eventually decided to quit her sales job. By the way, as you could imagine, her parents were not happy at first, but they're very supportive now. Umi would make her official debut as a Gravure idol on January 2020 through her first DVD, and she was really popular, with tickets for doing photo shoots with her being instantly sold out. Now, some of you may be asking, what about the Gunpla? Well, Umi's infatuation with Gunpla started during uni. Interestingly, she was familiar with robots in Western movies like Pacific Rim, but up to that point had never watched any robot anime. Then she came across a Gunpla of the Zeta Gundam, which seems to be the Gundam of the main character in Mobile Suit Zeta Gundam. Just so you know, I don't know that much about Gundam. Anyway, falling in love with the kit, this is essentially what would start her Gunpla journey. Umi would even start checking out different modelers online and was shocked to discover that some modelers were coloring the robots in a completely different way or doing things like adding more detail. Coming to understand that the world of Gunpla was a lot more freer than she imagined, Umi decided to quickly go and buy all the different tools available for assembling Gunpla, and also all the different books about them that were available. Now, at first when she was doing Gravure, Umi hadn't revealed that side of her. This would change when she started talking about Gunpla with some of the male staff that were involved in Gravure shoots, and when Umi showed pictures of the Gunpla she had assembled, someone told her she must show this to her fans. However, Umi was actually quite reluctant to do so. She was worried it would be taken negatively, for example being taken as some sort of publicity stunt. That actually links as to why Umi started streaming and uploading videos of her assembling Gunpla. She wanted to prove that her love for Gunpla wasn't fake, that she was a serious fan. Whether it was because of that or not, Umi's videos did well. I mean extremely well. A lot of her videos would gain more than 1 million views. Oh, and if you didn't know, Umi edits them all by herself. There was nothing random about Umi's success. Of course, visually speaking, she's really attractive, but she's proved to be pretty damn smart. I'm sure she's not just skilled at sales, but marketing too. She managed to turn what she's passionate about into a full-time job, and honestly, I'm nothing but impressed. Anyway, that's gonna do it for this video, guys. Another Gravure idol that I thought would be interesting to cover. I honestly don't know much about Gunpla, except that it's really popular and that there are many dedicated spaces for it in places like Akihabara, but it does seem to be something you could spend hours upon hours of your life on. I did know about Umi too, something I didn't mention before, but she's actually in the same agency now as Enako, funnily enough, and I always appreciate her cosplays. Yes, that's how I'm going to explain it. Anyway, thanks again guys, more videos coming your way. Take care, stay safe, peace, bye.